Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'd like to seek the blessings and good wishes of the devotees so that we can try to understand a little bit more about the Yuga Dharma for this age, which is the chanting of the holy names. So we've actually been through this in some detail previously. And what I was intending to do today was go through it at quite a speed so that we, sort of revise, but also those who've been through this, we revise it again, but also for those who are new to it, to give you an all-round picture. So it might be a little fast. So do stop me if you have any questions or any comments, any disagreements. So it'll be quite a quick session through, because there's quite a few slides to go through. This is the most important part of our practice, spiritual sadhana. If we get this right, chanting the holy names, then we will be successful in our spiritual quest. And it is so simple that it can be easily missed. It is so simple that people look for complications in this process. But if we simply are able to focus on our chanting and keep sort of renewing it every few days, improving it every time, then we will improve in our spiritual practice, and ultimately we will reach our supreme destination. So what is this holy name? It's non-different from Krishna himself. Krishna's name, his form, his paraphernalia, they're all the same. So his form, the spiritual form of Krishna, the original two-handed, and his name is the same, because in spiritual context, it's all omnipresent. He's present everywhere. So we should understand that when we say his name, we actually are with him in complete spiritual sense. We are with him. As long as we are in the conversation, we're with him. If we're not in the conversation, if we're inattentive, of course we're somewhere else. But if we're in the conversation with the Lord whilst we're chanting, because he's no different from the form of the Lord, we're actually with the Lord himself. So this is a very famous verse from the Padma Purana. We can chant this together. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Punah Yukto Abhinatvam Nama Namino.
The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It is not a material name under any condition, and it is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there is no question of it being involved with Maya. Krishna's name is always liberated and spiritual. It is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. This is because the name of Krishna and Krishna himself are identical. It's from the Padma Purana.
Okay, good. Thank you. The Lord has invested all his energies in the holy name. And the verse that is a pranam evidence for that is Lord Chaitanya's second verse, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sharvata Shaktis. He's saying, Nam Bahuda Nija Sharva Shaktis. Sorry, Bahuja Nija Sharva Shaktis. So he has invested all his Shaktis in the holy names of the Lord. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sharva Shaktis. So these holy names are very powerful because the Lord has invested in these holy names. He's put all his energies, his potencies into these holy names. So we are very fortunate to be able to chant these holy names because it says actually it's his most valuable possession, his valued possession. He has a lot. The Lord has everything. He's the owner of everything. He owns us as well. He owns the spiritual world. He owns everything in this material world. But the most valuable possession that he possesses, apart from Srimati Radharani, no question of that, is the holy name, because he has invested everything into the holy name. And he is gifting that holy name to us via the spiritual master. This is the most kindest thing that anybody can do, give us their most valuable possession. I just wanted to ask the devotees, why do you think the Lord is giving us his most valuable possession?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
He wants us back home.
Very good.
He wants us back home, Bhakti.
First class. Very good, Mataji. He's missing us, right? He values us. What is he lacking? He's lacking us. And even though we don't care, we've forgotten. But he's never forgotten us. And he's cried rivers of tears because he's missing us. So he values us and he wants us back with him, even though we may not even realize all this. And we wanted to be separate from him in the first place. But because he values us so much, he's giving us the most valued possession that he has, his holy names. And it's these holy names, as we've discussed in the past, actually more powerful than the form of the Lord himself. We discussed it yesterday briefly about how Hanuman protected a king by chanting the holy names of the Lord. Lord Ramachandra was himself going to punish the king, but he couldn't because Hanuman was standing between him and the king, chanting the name of Ram. So this is an indication of the power of the holy names, more powerful than the Lord himself. We know the Maha Mantra. I think everybody here will know. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Supreme combination. Meaning of the holy name is when we're chanting, two things are happening. We are being grateful to the Lord for everything he's given us. And at the same time, we are begging him, please engage us in your service. There are other mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. These mantras gave perfection to devotees like Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruv Maharaj. So these mantras are very bona fide. But there's nothing more powerful than the Maha Mantra. Because in this age of Kali, this is the prescribed mantra. And it's, the evidence for that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself chanted this mantra in congregation as well as on his beads. And Om, we've discussed, Om is such an important sound vibration because it represents Krishna himself. But for this age, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the prescribed mantra. What is the purpose of chanting? Is to please Krishna. We're pleasing Krishna. Why are we pleasing Krishna? Because we've forgotten him. Finally, we're remembering him. And he becomes pleased by that. Just like a father whose son is gone or daughter is gone. And finally, they're calling the father up again. And the father becomes very pleased. So similarly, same with us, same with Krishna. If we remember him, we're calling upon him, Krishna becomes pleased. It's not an ego thing that Krishna wants to hear his name and then he becomes pleased. It's a pleasure of relief. Ah, finally, this foolish Jivatma is remembering me again. With the chanting, we are also worshipping Radha Krishna. This is a very important aspect of one of the purpose of chanting. We actually engaged in worshipping Lord Krishna and Radharani. There's one incident in the pastimes of the Goswamis. There was Lokanath Goswami, whose disciple was Narottam Das. They were chanting in Vrindavan, and they were intensely chanting. At one time, a farmer came and he asked for water from them. And Lokanath Das Goswami was so intensely chanting that he didn't even know that somebody was asking for anything. But Narottam Das Thakur stopped his chanting and he gave the farmer the water. And then afterwards, when they finished their prescribed chanting, Lokanath Goswami instructed Narottam Das that you are not fit to live in Vrindavan. Why? Narottam Das asked. Because you disturbed your worship of Radha and Krishna. You were chanting, you were worshipping. Why did you disturb you? The farmer is a farmer. He can find water anyway. It's not an emergency. So you should have not stopped your worship. So this is the point. When we're chanting, we try to find a good place to chant, mentally, physically, so that there's no interruption if possible. This is a very good way. And we'll come to this a bit later on. And we're mending a broken relationship. We've broken the relationship with the Supreme Lord, and the chanting is a means of mending that relationship. What are the effects of good chanting? The Shikshastakam, verse number 1, explains this very nicely. Cheto darpanam marjanam bahadavagni nivarpanam. Cleanses the heart, it extinguishes repeated birth and death. It's the prime benediction for humanity. It spreads the ray of the benediction moon. It's the life of all transcendental knowledge. We should know that actually all we have to do is chant. If we can get the chanting perfect, that's all we need to do. But of course, the Jiva Atma, who is fallen and into this material world, is always looking for something a little bit more. That's why we're doing all this studying and classes, because we want to understand more, gain more faith. And this knowledge also destroys this, it's a sword of knowledge that destroys ignorance. But actually, if we can focus in just on the chanting, then our life's mission is successful. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, enables us to fully taste the nectar. And there are other benefits, awakens our love for God, foundational basis of bhakti yoga. It equips us to deal with life's challenges. Often, like Anant Vijay Prabhu was saying the other day, he faced serious challenges, and we have as well. And our solace is the holy name. And Karuna Banda was saying some time ago how difficulties was there, and Nashinga Kavach was something that she started chanting. So in this way, we take shelter of the Supreme Lord when these challenges come, and the Lord carries us through those challenges. Peace with oneself and the world. So where are we now with our chanting? Are we on a path where if we continue the way we're chanting, we will progress? That's good. Or are we going to be at the same place, i.e. not progressing, but not regressing either? Or are we going backwards? Is our chanting at not such a good standard that day by day it's getting worse and worse? If that's the case, we really need to rethink, refocus. 3 types of chanting. There's the Nam Aparat, which is offensive chanting. And the root of any offensive chanting is inattentiveness. We're not paying attention to the chanting of the holy names. That's the root cause of offenses. There's the Nam Abhas, where We're not chanting offensively, but we're not chanting purely either. It's the clearing, the in-between stage, namapas, which is actually a place where one will get liberation from this world, because we're not offending the Lord by chanting his holy names. But at the same time, we may not attain Golok Vrindavan because it's not pure chanting. Shuddhanam is pure chanting, where we are completely focused, attentively hearing, and relishing the association of the Lord through his chanting of his holy names. And that's where Prabhupada is. The offenses to be avoided. I'll just very quickly go through these. I'm going to share these slides, so later on you are going to be able to read these and look at them in detail. Blaspheming the devotees who've dedicated their lives for propagating the holy names. Second offense is considering demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva to be the equal platform as Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. Third is disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth is blaspheming the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth offense is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to be the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. When somebody says just chanting one name purely will destroy mountains of sin, and we think, that doesn't sound right. But actually that's a fact. Giving some interpretation on the holy name. The holy name means this, holy name means that. No, the holy name is Krishna himself. When we pray, we will have some conceptions of the holy name. We may have the mantra, we will be praying to the Lord, like I was saying, thanking him and asking for service. That's fine. Committing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. I'll do sin now and chant later and I'll be fine. That's not good. Considering chanting Hare Krishna to be one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. So these activities which are meant for elevation to the heavenly planets, we think Hare Krishna is the same thing. It's not. Hare Krishna is completely transcendental. Instructing a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. We sort of take this risk. When we're on the streets, we give books out. We don't know whether the person is faithless or not. But if somebody openly is faithless, we shouldn't go to them and glorify the holy name, because they probably will react in the opposite way to what we're expecting. They'll probably become more offensive. So if they become more offensive to the Lord by blaspheming the holy names, they're going further away from God. And we've sort of played a role in that. So that's why we try to avoid, when we know somebody is faithless, we don't glorify the holy name. There's other things we can do to help that person, like giving prasad. Not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain mature attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. So we've understood lots and lots of instruction. We've attended millions of classes, but yet we still got heavy attachments to this material world. It's not a good sign. Or we don't have faith in the chanting of the holy names. Prahlad Maharaj heard one class, right, from Narad Muni through his mother. Dhruv Maharaj met his spiritual master once, Narad Muni, and they attained perfection. How many times have we heard our spiritual master, and where are we? So it shows we got a long way to go. And the 11th offense is to be inattentive whilst chanting the holy names of the Lord, which is, as I said before, the root cause of these 10 offenses is inattention, not chanting properly. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Prema Bhakti, the very important verse, third verse of the Sikshastakam, Trinadapi Sunichana Tarorapi Saisuna Mani Namanadina Kirtania Sadari.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
So if we're humble, tolerant, not looking for prestige from others, and ready to offer respects to others, we won't have any difficulties chanting. There won't be anything in the way of our mind to stop us from chanting, and we'll be constantly chanting. The main indications of devotee who's always chanting are exactly these qualities. Haridas Thakur is an example. Sanatan Goswami, all the 6 Goswamis, they're all example of this humility and tolerance. Something that we should aspire for, to help us chant very nicely. Okay, so how to chant? If we get it wrong, it's the greatest loss, right? If we don't do it properly. We're spending the time, 2 hours every day, if we're doing 16 rounds, we're spending the time, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We don't do it properly. What a great loss that is. The greatest loss, because we have the opportunity. We're spending the 2 hours chanting, but not doing it properly. Huge loss. It's almost worse than those who don't know anything. We know, and yet we're still wasting the opportunity. Lord has kindly agreed to spend 2 hours with us every single day. How do we know this? Through the mercy of the spiritual master. We've made a vow to him before the fire, before the deities, that we will chant 16 rounds. Roughly takes 2 hours. It means the Lord's going to be with us for 2 hours if we want him to be there. Are we in that conversation with him? Or is he on his own, twiddling his thumbs, waiting for us to enter the conversation? What sort of conversation? My dear Lord, thank you for everything. Engage me in your service. I'm such a fool. Sorry, I've gone away from you for such a long time. Or is it just a numbers game? We have to get the chanting done, the 16 rounds over. Oh, thank God I've finished my chanting. Hare Krishna. Oops. Is that our attitude? Then we need to re-look at it, reconsider our mood. Important to chant good quality rounds. Very important. So what is this sacred space? The external sacred space is sitting properly. There's one tape where Prabhupada is chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And then he says, sit properly. It's one devotee who actually he was saying it too. Later on, he relayed that Prabhupada was talking to him because he was sitting, not in a good, falling asleep. And he said he remembered this instruction for the whole of his life. He remembered that instruction. So sit properly. What does that mean? Not just sitting properly. Prepare the day before. If you're going to go to work, of course, nowadays people not necessarily going to work so much. But if we're going to work, we prepare the day before, right? We get the clothes ready. We get the alarm set. We know what time we're going to get up. We know what time the train is. So in the same way, we prepare the day before. I am going to chant at this time for 2 hours, or I'm going to do 4 rounds in the morning, and then 4 hours before lunch, 4 hours before evening dinner, 4 hours before, 4 rounds before going to sleep. We prepare, so we know when we're going to chant. This way, we are sending a message to the Lord that I'm serious about this. I'm serious about getting close to you. If our lifestyle is we stay up late, maybe watching the television or talking with friends or social media or playing games on the phone, if we're staying up late and we're thinking, I'm going to wake up early and chant, it's not necessarily going to happen because our lifestyle is not conducive to developing this external sacred space. So our lifestyle needs to be in sync with our spiritual practice. So waking up early means going to sleep early. Because if we go to sleep late and wake up dozy, our chanting is not going to be good. And unfortunately, it'll have a roll-on effect. Every day, the chanting will get worse. We sleep late, wake up early, try to chant, but we're dozy. And eventually we go into this rot, and we'll talk about that rot in a little while, actually. Pronounce carefully. Listen to what we're saying. That's really not going to do anybody any good. That sort of chanting. Pronounce each word carefully. Listen to each word carefully. Feel the vibration. Control the breathing. That's a really nice way to get focused in the chanting. Sometimes I take a deep breath and chant maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 mantras in one breath. In that way, a little bit you're focusing on the breath, but actually what you're doing is you're focusing on the mantra. So that's very powerful way of doing this. Show Krishna we want to chant better. Make a statement to him. Of course, external practices can help us, but they shouldn't get in the way. Like the Brahmins in Krishna Lila who were doing the yagya, and cowherd boys came to them and said, Krishna and Balaram are hungry. Can you give some food? And the Brahmin said, can't you see we're doing this yagya? According to the Vedic sacrifices, go away. Krishna's the aim of all Vedic sacrifice, was waiting for them, and they missed the point. So we shouldn't let the external practices get in such a way that we forget the aim of the chanting, which is to please Krishna. But we should get that external space right. So it gives us the opportunity to please Krishna by our chanting. So the internal space. How do we create? What I mean by external space is the outer atmosphere. Now the inside our mind atmosphere. Get that right. Some people put Prabhupada's chanting tape on. No. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Very nice to chant with Prabhupada. Very nice. Shouldn't be too loud, just loud enough so you can hear. You shouldn't drown your chanting. Your chanting is important because it's a personal thing. But chanting with Prabhupada is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. Another thing that's recommended is one by one, switch off different aspects of our material life, temporarily at least. We say to ourselves, home life, switch off. Work life, I want to switch it off for the next 2 hours. I don't want to know. Social media, ding, switching it off. Don't want to know for these 2 hours. That's a good exercise. I do that myself and it does work. It's a very nice exercise. You're just telling your mind, keep away from these areas for the time being, for the next 2 hours. Get the internal mood right it's a mood of prayer. Get the internal mood right. We're praying to the Lord, begging for service. You do so much for me, my dear Lord. I'd like to do something for you. What can I do for you? I'm so fallen. I've treated you so badly. I want to become purified so that I can please you. Completely rely on you for everything. Feel that dependency. Every single thing I rely on you. Gratitude. Thank you so much for everything you do for us. That includes the things that we don't like, the things that we think are inauspicious. We should be grateful for the Lord for everything, inauspicious or auspicious, good or bad. And begging for his mercy. This begging, this crying, without it, we won't make advancement. There has to be this deep feeling of that we need the Lord, and we cry for the Lord. There's a wonderful tape by or recording by Govind Swami. Here he's saying you should cry for Krishna. If you can't cry, if you cry that you can't cry for Krishna. And then he goes on like that. If you can't cry that you can't cry, then you should cry that you can't cry for Krishna. It goes on and on like that for 5, maybe 10 minutes, stressing the importance of this emotional appeal from the heart to the Lord. So when we chant, we should chant. It's a simple statement. Nothing else to do. Just chant. We make a samkampa, make a vow. I will chant. There's one devotee who says before every month, he says, I will chant this mantra, next mantra with full concentration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. I will chant with full concentration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Interesting, I'm not sure how long it takes him to do his rounds, but but actually, a very good point. I remember Vyasaki Prabhu, he changed the way we chanted completely when he came one time, years ago. And he was, he would say to us on the first beat, I'm going to thank the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. On the second beat, I'm going to beg him for service. And then he would carry on like that. And he would say, for these 8 ways I've chanted just now, on the 8 beats, I know I have chanted 8 mantras properly out of the 108. And then he would increase that number. So in that way, he would eventually get his whole 108 mantras chanted were beautiful. So that's an interesting way to chant. What are the effects of good chanting? We feel happy, right? Ecstatic, blissful. You feel the presence of Krishna. Feel his kindness. You're absorbed. You know, you've forgotten how many rounds you've chanted. That's really nice. You lost count. You can deal with anything. And you just, oh, I finished chanting. I remember somebody, it was one of the children, when we were chanting in the Krishna Sangha, I said, okay, we finished now chanting. And he said, no, I want to chant more. I thought, wow, what a wonderful attitude. Disappointed to finish chanting. And want to chant more. That's really nice. Of course, nothing stops us from chanting anyway, because we don't have to hold the beads to chant. We can chant all the time anyway. But if we got that mood that I want to continue my chanting, so even if I haven't got the beads in my hand, I'm chanting, that's a good sign. What's not good sign? The dead Japa zone, we call it. This is not a good place to be. I have to chant my rounds. It's like I have to go shopping with my wife. You know, the friend is on the phone, wants a round of golf, and you say, no, I can't do it. I have to go and shop with my wife. And she hears you. How's she going to feel? Not very nice. Same with Krishna. I have to chant my round. I've made a promise. I have to chant my rounds. You know, sometimes you already say, I have to chant my rounds. Well, not the right mood. This is the danger zone. When there's a big relief, thank God, I've finished chanting my rounds. And we put the bead bag away for another day. We're driven by numbers. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare. Done my 16 rounds. Sure, done it within 25 minutes. Fantastic. Broken my own record. No feelings. It's just a numbers game. That's a really not good place to be. A lot of people are in this place. It's almost we're saying to Krishna, I'm going to tolerate you for the next 2 hours, Krishna. I don't really want to do this. I made a promise to my spiritual master, so I'm doing this. But I don't really want to be here with you. That's almost the message we're giving Krishna. And that's a really bad message to give him. Because he'll make the arrangements that He'll fulfill our desire. We won't be able to chant. Mechanical chanting. There's a robot in Japan who takes, in a temple, he takes the offering from the devotee, he goes to the altar and he makes the offering to the Lord. Is that this type of chanting that we are used to doing? Mechanical chanting. Thoughts are everywhere. Don't even know what we're saying sometimes. Just chanting for the sake of chanting. It's just mechanical. Or we're distracted due to boredom. You know, we've got the beads, we've got the beads in one hand, we've got the phone, we've got this little thumb, and we're just going, looking, maybe doing some chat, maybe watching the TV at the same time, maybe playing some games, chanting away. These are all very bad signs. It's a dead Japa zone. And distraction is the worst. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, if we're not chanting for seva, please engage me in your service, or purification, then we're not actually chanting the Maha Mantra. We're chanting some Mahik mantra, some different mantra. So texting, WhatsApp, Facebook, while chanting, gossiping. I remember, I have said this a few times, I really love this story. I was in Ahmedabad temple chanting in the morning, like at 5 o'clock or something. And there were two Gujarati ladies, they were chanting. One was chanting Hare Krishna and the other one was telling her life problems. My daughter-in-law doesn't like anything I cook. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And then the other one would start. They spent the whole 2 hours like that. And at the end they said, oh yes, that was really nice. Let's do it again tomorrow. Not a good thing. Some people say, just put a piece of paper there next to your chanting. And when you're chanting and you remember something, just jot it down. Dangerous thing to do, because potentially you could be organizing your next holiday instead of chanting. So your to-do list, you'd be thinking about that rather than the holy names of the Lord. So best, if you got things on your mind before the chanting, I agree. Write it down so you don't forget, with the intention of not referring to that in your mind during your chanting. Beat the clock chanting. Done my rounds in 15 minutes, beaten my own record. Chanting while driving, not a good thing. Dangerous as well. Asking for material things. My dear Lord, please give me a nice car. This chanting is like that. It will fulfill every single desire we have, whether it's material or spiritual. If you ask for something like that, you will get something like that. If you ask for material things, we'll get those material things. But the whole point of chanting this Maha Mantra is to connect with the Supreme Lord spiritually. So we shouldn't ask for any material things. These things will come according to our karma anyway. Japa walks are very interesting. Going for a Japa walk and then we're looking, oh, nice house. Cool, nice windows, aren't there? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's a nice tree. Oh, that's a nice, beautiful woman. And you're following. That just becomes a sightseeing Japa tour, you know. Better. Japa walks are not a bad idea. Just have to remember not to become a sightseeing Japa tour. Sleeping dive bomb Japa. This is quite interesting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Have you seen this before? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. That's what it's called, dive bomb Japa. Can't really open the eyes because it was such a late night last night. So when I'm chanting, I'm falling asleep. That really sends a very bad message to the Lord. You're boring, my dear Lord. So boring, I'm falling asleep. But he's the most exciting personality, ever fresh. This is a nice cartoon just to lighten things up a little. Oof, are you good at multitasking? Well, I can chant and sleep at the same time. That's nice multitasking. And sometimes this, if we're chanting, our mood is not right. If we had an argument with somebody the day before and we're chanting, thinking about that, this chanting actually will convince us that I am absolutely right, if that's our mood. But actually what the chanting should be doing is making us realize that we are nothing. We're completely dependent on the Lord, and that we should be very humble and tolerant. So if the chanting is taking us to a place where I think I am right in this argument, and we finish our chanting, become a little bit more aggressive and intolerant and arrogant, something's wrong. It's not, we haven't chanted in the right mood. What are the effects of this dead japa zone? We start negatively, we're going to end negatively. Today is a bad japa's day. Same thing's going to be tomorrow. We have an expectation that our japa is just going to be bad day after day, and we're just on this downward spiral. We can't feel the presence of Krishna. We're shooting blanks. There's a gun, it's got bullets, and he's shooting, bomb, 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 but they're all blanks. No impact. How to get out of this dead japa zone? Beg Krishna for a relationship with him. Beg him, cry for him. My Lord, my chanting is really not good at all. Please help me, please assist me. I want to develop my relationship with you. This is the whole idea of chanting. Chant with real feelings. Ride on the chariot of tears. This is a really nice pastime. You may have heard it, and I apologize if you have. Draupadi, when she was crying out for the Lord, initially when Dhritarashtra was pulling the sari, she was holding on, right? Trying to fight him. But then she realized he's too strong, so she let go of one hand. She was still holding the sari. She realized he was far too strong. She let go of both hands, crying. Tears were coming down her eyes. So before this, Krishna, when she was holding on, he was in Dwarka with Satyabhama. And Satyabhama said to Krishna, my friend needs your help, go and help her. And Krishna would say, no, it's too late. Too late. She was still holding on. As soon as he stopped holding on, she was crying tears. He said to Satyabhama, now I can go. I can ride on the chariot of her tears. And he came running towards her, give up all his protection. So this is very important to have some sort of tears when we're chanting. Even when you make it up, doesn't matter, make it up in the beginning. They'll eventually become real tears, not crocodile tears. Chanting with advanced devotees, that's very helpful. Chanting in the temple together with devotees, very, very helpful. Make a resolve. I'm going to get out of this crazy zone I'm in and make the most of this opportunity my spiritual master has given me. Get the mood right. Get that external and internal sacred space right. And hearing is the most important thing. Just hear what we're chanting. That's enough. Just hearing what we're chanting. Wonderful. So inattentive chanting, we've talked about this, root cause, offensive chanting. It needs an act, right? If we're not purposefully offensive, then it's not offensive chanting. Most people are probably at the stage of namabhas because we're not intending to commit offense unless we're inattentive, right? And unless we're wanting to fulfill material desires. Even chanting in a joking mood is namabhas. So when we're chanting on the streets and people are laughing at us, the Hare Krishnas, actually them saying the Hare Krishna, they're not intending offense. And that, just saying that clears, is like namabhas, it actually clears all their sins immediately. Although it may be inattentive in one sense, because they're not aware of the holy names. But anyway, interesting. Getting the mood right. This is really nice. Before we chant, we can say this to ourselves. Now it's time for me to chant, for me to do my favorite activity, chant japa. We may not believe it, we may not mean it, we may not feel it, but just saying it will help. Just saying it will get the mind in the right place. And saying it every single day, after some time, we actually believe it and actually practice it, actually feel it. Our words and thoughts can shift our consciousness. So just saying this, I love to chant. I want to chant. I get to chant. These very important things to say before we start chanting. I love to chant. I want to chant. And I get to chant. I have the opportunity to chant. This is very rare. We must understand. Chanting is very, very rare. And chanting purely is extremely rare. Pray to feel Krishna's presence. And when you pray, you never get the opposite to what you meditate or what you desire. So if you pray for something, you will get it. Have this self-belief and trust the holy name. That's really nice. Self-belief that I can do it. I can chant properly. And of course, we can only do it with the mercy of the holy name. So we trust the holy name. I choose to make the rest of my life the best of my life. So we may be young, we may be not so young, but we have a choice that we can make. We can choose to live the rest of our life in the best possible way, to get the best out of our life. It's never too late. Ajamil was on his deathbed. He was going to hell. But the name of Narayan saved him, took him to the spiritual world. But we don't want to wait that long because we never know what's going to happen. And actually, chanting the holy names, associating with the most dynamic personality, it's great fun. Just here, there's a saying by Buddha, see what you're looking at. Often when you go to the temple, you've had a darshan of the deities, somebody's asked you, what color dresses were they wearing? You won't have a clue because we're not really looking. We're not seeing what we're looking at. So it's the same with chanting. Hear what you're chanting. Hear what you're chanting. Chanting is not an intellectual exercise. That's a very important point. This is actually a connection of the heart. And we'll come to that in a little while. When we chant with the heart, actually we can come to it now. When we chant with the heart, we take the mind out of the equation. The mind plays some horrible, horrible tricks to stop us from proper chanting. The mind can really delude us, take us away from our real goal. But when we chant with our heart, then the mind is taken out of the picture. So that's quite an interesting point. And it's not an intellectual exercise. Hearing leads to attentiveness. Hearing is good to start, but there must be feeling. There must be this feeling. Like the child calling out to the mother for food, for milk. It's great feeling when that is done. Engage the mind in hearing, but not a mental adjustment. It's a heart-to-heart thing. This is important to understand. We can try to do the mental adjustments. Ultimately, if we don't chant with our heart, with feelings, then it's always going to be a challenging part of our sadhana. What are sort of prayers we can offer? The natural mood of the soul is to pray from the heart, right? That's what we naturally do. Chanting, understanding, tears, mercy. Otherwise, it will take many, many lifetimes, right? We have to have some tears. We have to beg for the mercy. We have to understand why we're chanting and chant. Chanting is like crying of a child for his mother, Prabhupada. Types of prayers. Engage me in your service, my dear Lord. We can, when we're chanting, these are all prayers we can offer. Whilst we're hearing, chanting from the heart, please accept me. Please don't reject me, my dear Lord. Oh, my friend, oh, my friend. It's powerful prayers. Please pull my heart towards you. Make me steady in your devotion. May I develop taste for you. Please show me how to serve you, O Radha. Because remember, we're chanting not just to Krishna, but to Radharani as well. Please steal my heart by your sweetness. It's a really wonderful prayer. O Radha, make me qualified to serve you. Should we be thinking of service while we're chanting? So we got cooking to do, we're thinking of the menu. No, Japa is not meant to be thinking of service. Just focus on the relationship with Krishna. That's all we're doing. If we're planning the service, then where's the conversation with Krishna? Where's the interaction with Krishna? The Japa is a plea for service. After lifetimes of Maya service, we're begging for his service. What about the mind? Very strong. It's usually in the past or in the future. It's lamenting or it's wanting things. Never in the present. But Krishna says you can control the mind by practice and detachment. And Prabhupada says, where is the question of the mind? You're chanting with your mouth and you're hearing with your ears. Where's the mind in all this? So you can bypass the mind also by chanting with the heart. And this is a nice saying. You have to be out of your mind to chant. It's very true. And then I like this cartoon. Why meditation? Couldn't you just steal cars and huff right out like the other kids? How long does it take to chant? Usually 6 minutes. Will take 1 hour and 36 minutes. 7 minutes per round. 1 hour 50, just below. I'm at that stage for years and years. 8 minutes, 2 hours, 8 minutes. So if slower than 8 minutes, of course, in the beginning, it can be slower because one's getting used to it. But if it's, once you're in the practice of chanting, if it's slower than 8 minutes, then usually it's an indication that the mind is being distracted and wandering. So when we chant very nicely, distinctively, every name, but not slowly, because then the mind will wander. And usually more than 8 minutes means it's sort of wandering away. And how many should we chant? Well, one mantra. One mantra is 16 names. One round is 1,700 names. 16 rounds is 27,000 names. 32 rounds is 55,000. 64 rounds is 110,000 names. Wherever we are, especially for this Purushottam Mass that's coming up, we should increase our chanting wherever we are, because it's a perfect opportunity. It's recommended by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that on Ekadashis one should increase one's chanting to the best of one's ability, because such auspicious days are the mothers of devotion. So we've got the ultimate mother of devotion just coming up in a couple of days, and Friday. So I hope devotees take some vrats up, especially in connection with the holy name itself. And we can appreciate the holy name after we finish chanting. Holy name is so sweet because it's bringing me closer to Krishna. Something like that, just to show our appreciation. Holy name is my best friend because it's always with me, guiding me, protecting me. Something like that. And this is a nice thing to end with English.
Oh, done. Please kindly chant the mantra composed of Krishna's names. This is the only mantra for destroying all enemies. The mantra worshipped by every word of the Upanishads, the mantra that uproots samsara, the mantra that drives away all the darkness of ignorance, the mantra for attaining infinite opulence, the mantra for curing those bitten by the poisonous snake of worldly distress, and the mantra for making one's birth in this world successful.
Just bits and pieces, how to stay awake during Japa. How to stay awake during Japa. Think that we are with our best friend. We should chant Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, not before every round necessarily, but before we start chanting. We won't go to hell if we don't chant it before every single round. We should confide in the holy names. Without mercy, there's no advancement. And without effort, there's no mercy. So they go hand in hand. We've got to make the effort. And we should avoid these bad Japa days because we lose momentum. And of course, if anybody's got a problem with sleeping, insomnia, we have the perfect cure. Chant Japa and read the Bhagavatam. It cures any insomnia. Okay, that was it. So, wanted to ask devotees to share. Madhusan Prabhu, would you like to share anything?
Hey, Haribol. Hare Krishna, Navi.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. And all glories to the holy name. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Hare. So when we chant, not that, I've reached any kind of perfection stage or anything like that. What you've gone through, I've gone through everything. The experience of chanting. I think when I was young, and my best chanting was when I was at the manor and I did Mangalarti, and then everybody's going around the Tulsi plant and everybody's on their beads and nobody's distracting. They're all chanting away, and it's such a peaceful, ecstatic time. And it's obviously a Brahma Muhurta time, early in the morning. So you've been to the Mangalarti, and then you've done the Tulsi Puja, and then you're all got the time now, a couple of hours till the 7 o'clock Aarti comes, and then you got nothing but just to chant then, and that was probably one of my best chanting experiences. And then, when you come out of the temple environment, you're not in the environment. As the day progresses, like we've talked about the material modes of nature, the Rajogun takes over, and then Tamogun starts to take over, and by evening. But at least you've chanted and you've done your rounds early in the morning, and that's good time. And that's the practice has been for so many years, and not that, it's been like that throughout my life. And all have our challenging days. Some days are good, some days are bad, some days we're in a rut, so all the time, chanting is our main purpose here. And we've been blessed with that, and it's one thing that's been given to us as a mantra, and to deliver the mind. And Lord Chaitanya has prescribed this for this Kali Yuga. So what you've gone through all these, the chanting, how to chant on the beads. Sometimes I suppose you've gone through that, why we chant on beads. It's very kinesthetic because you're feeling the beads in your fingers, and you're counting, and all your senses get engaged, because the touch sense, and the sense of hearing, sense of tongue gets engaged. So in that way, but it's good to always give time to yourself. This is my time with Krishna. Allocate that time, whether it's 15 minutes, half an hour, and if it's 2 hours, whatever. But it's your time with Krishna, and everything else is aside. You can always catch up with all these other things anyway later on if they're that important. So it's a good practice like that. I did attend one of the Japa weekend session with the Bhakti Bhagavad Maharaj, from South Africa. Wonderful, session, a whole weekend, chanting, 64 rounds, and he went through all the different intricacies of chanting and all the offenses, and then we spent the time and had a break. But to do 64 rounds like that, just to allocate a weekend like that with some senior Vaishnav and the Prabhupada's disciple, and so it's a good experience. So we had wonderful experiences of chanting in our life, so far. But there are rut moments, been in rut, and then you feel guilty and you're beating yourself over the head. Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you chant and all that? But then you have to get out of that as well, thinking, well, okay, that time is gone now, but at least tomorrow is another moment. Next moment is is going to be my moment with Krishna. So you have to keep doing this. You know, it's your personal struggle, and all these standards that sometimes we can raise our standards so high and we can't maintain it. Then we feel guilty over it, and then you beat yourself over it, and then you go worse. You know, it gets worse. But the cure for all these things is still chanting. It's like that yellow jaundice. People who get jaundice, this, you know, sugar is the cure, but it's very bitter in the beginning. But yet sugar is the cure. So you got to keep eating that, and then you begin to taste the sweetness. So holy name is like that, you know. And as you chant more and more and more, then as you say, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, our heart starts to get cleansed, and then we start to come into this, you know, offenseless chanting sometimes. Then we can taste and feel the ecstasy. But till then, you know, we have to keep practicing. And so, you know, chanting on beads, well, sometimes I don't have beads with me. When I'm walking, then you know, these days people do use counters and things like that, which is still good. Sometimes I end up just using my fingers, you know, 12 times 9 makes 108. So on my fingers is 12 here and 9 here. So while I'm walking and I've got nothing and I've got no beads, I'm sitting or waiting for something, and I just think, oh, man, I'm going to be waiting here for 20 minutes. I can squeeze in 1 round or 2 rounds. And as long as you can keep a count on your fingers, then so you catch up with that like that as well. But it is a, you know, we're blessed, but not everybody is going to see the significance of chanting. And I suppose in the chanting, the beads, you know, we do 108, and I suppose everybody knows how to chant on the beads. Because one of the first devotees, Bhumadev, in early days, when Manor was just opened, I went there and stayed there for a while, and Bhumadev, an American devotee, wonderful. He was the first one to sit next to me and pick the beads up like this and said, you chant on this, but you don't chant on this one, because that's Radha and Krishna, and you're doing your parikrama and whatever, but you don't chant up to there, then you turn around, then you go back, and then you turn around and go back, but you don't chant and jump over that main bead in this. That's Radha Krishna Day. So maybe you have covered how to chant on beads, but sometimes new people don't know. They think, oh, you just pick up beads and just chant, and that's it, you know. But there is a process as well of how to use your beads. Tulsi beads are the best. There are neem tree beads as well. They sell them, but these Tulsi beads, and then the counter here. But why we keep our beads in a bead bag? Because the beads are like, after so many chanting, they turn transcendental themselves. Tulsi beads, after all. So we treat you with respect. Don't put in dirty places. Your beads are your sacred things, your sacred instrument. And, you know, it's wonderful to go to the Vrindavan temple and see Prabhupada's personal items that Prabhupada used to use, like his shaving blades and his pen and, you know, his shaving brush, and all these personal items are all kept like in a little museum. And along with it are Prabhupada's beads as well. And when you see them and you see, wow, these are the beads Prabhupada is chanted on. And you just see how well used, you know, you feel those beads have been chanted on, definitely. And yeah, so there's you know, you've laid down a lot of different things. Talking about this insomnia, there was a wonderful devotee I met in Bali when I went to visit Bali, and then he was a son of a very rich guy, but he worked for his uncle's factory, looking after the factory. He owned the factory and everything, but he couldn't sleep because he was such a stressed out life. Then one day, you know, he expressed this to his teacher, and this teacher just gave him this mantra. He said, chant this and see how you feel. He didn't know what the mantra meant. He didn't know what it was all about, but all he just said, you just chant in your mind, just this Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It was this Hare Krishna mantra. Somehow the teacher didn't explain anything about it, but he could sleep so deeply and nicely after about 2-3 months. And then he said, I've never had any slept like this. And then later on in his life, he managed to find out what this mantra was, who the devotees are, because he went to Spain and he met some devotees and said, oh, they're chanting the same thing. Oh, why did he give me this mantra? This is amazing. Then he started to find something more about the devotees. He went to the program and then he learned, he got a few books. And then his life turned completely. And he went to Bali and he opened one of the most beautiful centers in Bali. And he runs it like an eco center, you know, manufacturing their own biogas, looking after cows, growing their own fruit and vegetables. And it was so wonderful to listen to his story, you know. But well, you don't know what this chanting can lead you to. But anyway, these are my experiences, and I hope others, if they have any questions or comments, then feel free.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you very much for sharing, Hare Krishna. Any questions, any comments? Sanjana, how did you find that?
Hare Krishna, yeah, very useful, particularly in clarifying a few points and helping me. So definitely will be trying a few mentioned exercises as well during my chanting.
Okay. Any questions? Anything that needs clarifying?
I think it was actually quite clear. I'll look over the slides again as well. But,
Very good. Good. No, thank you. Thank you for
thanks
that.
very much.
Okay, good. And how many rounds you chant? Sorry, I'm asking you this in a public forum.
I still do 2 a day.
Good.
I did 2 on Ekadashi. I did 2 in the morning, 2 in the night, because you're supposed to do more, and I was doing the fast. So.
Oh, well done. Well done.
Yeah. And then,
It's a good
but that was
start,
quite good. I actually found it quite good to do 2 in the morning, 2 in the night. Like I found it quite beneficial as well in the sleep regard. Actually, I think I had a very like good sleep after that. I had to go to bed early because I'd had a long week. But actually, I was expecting to wake up in the night because usually when I go to bed earlier than usual, I tend to wake up. And I found that didn't happen, so that is quite interesting. So that's nice. But I think I might try doing 2 in the morning, 2 in the night, and see, because that will be like I can have an attentive 2 rounds in the morning and an attentive 2 rounds in the night, rather than packaging 4 and then maybe finding myself getting distracted by doing 4 in one go.
Yes. It's
good. Quality is better than quantity, isn't it?
Correct.
So
yeah, because I wanted to step up the amount, but I just felt like I'm still trying to get my 2 rounds as good quality as possible, because
very good.
Yeah, I feel
very good. Get the foundation right. I like it.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes. The other thing was in Purushottam Mass, it's good to increase from Friday. So see if you can do the 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening from Friday onwards, at least for the whole month, if possible. And the next 2 Ekadashis in Purushottam are really important, really, really good Ekadashis to fast. So that is good. That's good. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Very much.
No, thank you, Sanjana. Really encouraging, very inspiring, actually. Anybody else? Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Geeta, are you happy? She's ecstatic. Yeah, maybe. Okay, I think let's start the Nishinga. Harinam Prabhu ki jai, Mahamantra ki jai.